And Jesus is the Son, in fact, he thinks souls are important. The very first disciples that he called to follow him, they were fishermen. And he was walking along the beach one day and he sees them and he says this. This is recorded in Mark chapter 1 and 16. As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew, who were fishermen, casting their nets into the lake. Because they're fishermen. That's why they're casting their net in the lake. Clever, huh? And Jesus says, "Come follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." He says, right now you catch fish and they're important to you. But he says, I will make you fishers of men. And so I'm going to stick to this kind of theme for just a second if you'll hold with me. Jesus says these guys, they're trying to catch fish. And that was their occupation. And I don't know if you've ever tried to catch fish, but I've been down to the pier a couple times. I hate fish. I don't like to catch them. I don't really like to eat them at all. But I do like to hang out at the pier with my friends and talk to them as they catch and eat fish. And so sometimes what always happens if you go down to Redondo Pier, though, the moment you get up to a guy fishing, you look in his bucket to see how many fish he's got. He's got 7 fish, and then you go to the next Mexican guy who's sitting there and you go, oh, he's got 9 fish, and then you go to the Korean guy that looks like the Mexican guy and he's got 2 fish, and you're always comparing how many fish they got. And if you ask them, I guarantee you those fishermen know how many fish are in their bucket because it's important to them. If you are a fisherman and you fish all night, and I've done this, well, my friends have, I just sit there and talk about Jesus, and they're fishing all night and they catch no fish, it's not fun driving home. It's 4 hours and they come home driving, beeping fish, beeping fish, and they're pissed off and angry and frustrated because they didn't catch any fish down at the Redondo Pier. And the reason is because those fish mattered to them. They wanted to get some fish so their mom could put it in the freezer because they're not going to cook it themselves. I don't know that. But it matters. And if this was your profession like these fishermen, catching fish matters. If you don't catch fish regularly, then you probably should quit as a fisherman or you'll get fired because you suck at it. And so fish matter to fishermen, and they would get frustrated or pissed off or angry or want to quit if they didn't in fact catch fish. Now, as soul fishers, we should be pissed off and angry and frustrated if we're not catching fish too. We're not talking about fish, we're talking about souls. So you and I, as people that are called as God's disciples, if we're fishing and we're not catching any souls, then we should be angry. We should be frustrated. Not because we want to look good or we want to have more fish than that guy in his bucket, but because God thinks souls matter. Wisdom thinks it, God thinks it, heaven thinks it, Jesus thinks it. And in fact, I think that's true too. Souls matter. And so I'm extremely frustrated and pissed off and angry if we're not catching souls. But you know what? So should you. I think of our brother Kay, who is interning as our outreach pastor. He's outreach intern. He's very frustrated when his friends won't become Christians or when they won't come to church. He just gets really angry and says lots of naughty words that he is working on at current time to change. If you could get past the words, you'll notice that he's really frustrated because he cares about them. He doesn't want them to continue in the ways that they are. He wants them to be able to come and hear the gospel. In fact, if they don't, he gets frustrated. Inside of him is bother, and he gets agitated. And that's right. We should get frustrated and agitated if we can't catch fish. As soul fishers, we better be counting the fish in the bucket. We better be looking how many we have. Otherwise, we're being irresponsible. God thinks that souls are important, so we need to think souls are important. And we need to make sure that we're actually catching souls. Now, this is true in 2 aspects. We need to make sure that we're actually catching souls as individuals and as a church. As individuals, we are all called to be individual fishers of souls. Just like Jesus called James and Peter and James, as we just looked at. When you say, Jesus, I want to become a disciple of you and follow you, Jesus says the same thing. Well, your occupation wasn't a fisherman, but the principle applies. You too now need to become a fisher of soul. And if you used to be a businessman, you need to be a businessman for souls, or a rapper, then you need to be a rapper for souls, or whatever you are. A drug dealer for souls, probably not so much, but quit drug dealing and then do something that would be for souls. Whatever the analogy will fit for you, then that's the one you should be using. But we're all called to be individual soul fishers. When was the last time you caught anything? Some of you have been fishermen for 10 years? 20 years? How many fish you caught? When was the last time you dropped your line? I go fishing down up here, I don't drop the line. I get down, got fish. I just sit there. I'm catching it, and the line's not in the water. When was the last time? Think it through. It's a real question that I actually want you to answer in your head, not aloud, because I can't have resounding nevers come booming up here. When was the last time you put your line in the water to catch a fish? When was the last time you even shared Jesus? And God will put him on the hook if you share Jesus. When was the last time you cast it out there and say, hey, friend, do you know Jesus? Hey, friend, do you know God loves you? Hey, friend. Think about it in your life. When was the last time? If your occupation was a fisherman, and you didn't put your line out very often, then you're not a very good fisherman. And you probably need to rethink that. And you don't get to switch. You don't get to become non-fisherman. So you better figure out how to get your line in the water. You better be able to, as an individual, because eventually you'll stand before God and he'll say, okay, what do you got in the bucket? God, water. Sorry, God. A lot of water. I went to church.